media mecca on the face of this earth, everybody was doing a piece on Conor Floyd. Some positive, some negative, some really wanted to see it like me. Some other people saying, oh, this doesn't make any kind of sense. But either way, they're covering it. And this isn't for the media to decide whether it's going to be a great match. It's not for the promoters to decide. It's not even up to the athletes. This one particular is up to us, the fans. We have decided this is the match we want to see. And whether it ends quickly, whether it's long and drawn out, whether there's an upset, or whether the expected happens, we want to see it. So we as fans have got our way for a change. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a pretty cool thing. And we don't get to see that very often. I just brought up the basketball example. The basketball example is a playoff. A playoff is a bracketed format. It's a tournament with a competitive architecture in place. If you follow competitive architecture, we want to be able to see this match. They couldn't make this match. Conor's not the number one contender. He's not the number one guy for Floyd to fight. But Floyd said, that's the guy I want to fight. The media said, well, that'd be an interesting fight. And us fans said, that is something we want to see happen. So you get the promoters together. They came in last. That's not generally how it happens. And now we've got the fight. It is so interesting as fight fans. We don't know what we want. So we are largely told by the media, who is told by the promoter, and then we believe it is true. How many years has it been since we've been told we want to see two guys bang? We want to see a finish. It's been years. It's been a decade. We've been told that. Now I hear fans saying that, but numbers say otherwise. Numbers say the fans don't even know what they want. The biggest draw ever was George St. Pierre. He didn't stand and bang with anybody, and he didn't finish guys. The next biggest draw ever was Brock Lesnar. I'm talking about ever in the sport. Brock Lesnar didn't stand and bang with anybody. And there were guys that he finished, but you guys get the point. So that isn't really what the fans want to see. The fans want to see something that's interesting and compelling. And whether they get 12 rounds and they get their whole money's worth, and the party that they're throwing and the beer that they bought and the pizza that they ordered all gets drank and eaten up, or it ends quickly, it really doesn't matter. We got a conflict. We're going to have conflict resolution all in one night. That is a compelling and interesting thing. What I do find to be amiss is that the story is not being told. I sat in on the conference call where the promoters all talked, and somebody asked, does this hurt MMA or does this hurt boxing, regardless of, depending on the outcome? And one of the promoters spoke up and said, no. Neither sport is in jeopardy here. This is just a fight. It's going to be contested under rules, but neither sport is on the line. Well, that's not true. That's not true in the least. The what if does exist, and a promoter will always take big risks on the what if. What if Conor McGregor wins and you've got him under contract? People could not understand why Vince McMahon released his biggest draw in Brock Lesnar to go fight at UFC 200. People couldn't understand why he would do that. But the answer was Vince took a gamble on the what if. What if Brock Lesnar wins? What if there's a whole bunch of steam and momentum behind this guy, and I'm the one that has his future contract? That's why he did that. So what if Conor wins? What if Floyd doesn't? What if Floyd is challenged? It's a tremendous deal to the integrity of boxing. I've talked about that term a few times, and I've had people ask me about it in interviews, and they say, well, boxing's fine. Why do you talk about the integrity of boxing? Boxing's not fine. I am a boxer. I love boxing. I love wrestling. I am a wrestler. I know wrestling's not fine. I know boxing's not fine. The high schools throughout this nation, not one of them in any of the 50 states can test boxing. And it's not because they think it's dangerous and they can't control it. They don't think it's a real sport. The NCAA on no level of Division 1, 2, or 3 can test boxing. And it's not because they don't think it's safe. It's because they don't think it's a real sport. The only governing body with any level of respect and validity that still recognizes boxing as a sport is the International Olympic Committee. Now, with that said, there is no better way There is no more official of a governing body to make your sport, a true sport, than the IOC. So even though the smaller organizations, the NCAA out here in Oregon, we got the OSAA, but all of your states have it. None of them agree with the IOC. When you have the IOC behind you, you're in a pretty good spot. But that is the reality. The numbers in boxing are down. The gyms are down. The participation is down. And it's a really great sport. None of this is meant to put down boxing at all. It's just the reality that there is a huge everybody's got to take a risk. Everybody has to. Dana White's taking a big risk. He's putting Conor McGregor out there. About $115 million payday. When all is said and done and the breakdown and the whole bit, Conor's going to walk out of there with anywhere from $45 to $50 million, my estimation, but I'm very close. I'm very close on that. So Dana White's taking a big risk. Will Conor ever come back? I can't pay him $150 million to contest MMA. Will he lose motivation? Am I going to lose my biggest star? Everybody here is taking a risk, but the risk on boxing is as a sport, not as a company. Dana White's got to risk a little bit as a company. Conor McGregor's got to risk a little bit between his safety, between his pride and ego. But Floyd is representing the integrity of an entire sport, the oldest sport in the world. And you'll hear wrestling say that about itself. We're the oldest sport in the world. Well, they might be right. But if they're wrong, it's boxing. It for sure was one of those two. Before there was bats and balls and courts and fields, somebody either grabbed somebody, and if the first thing they did was grab the other guy, then wrestling's the oldest sport. If they punched the other guy, then boxing is the oldest sport. But for sure, there is no other sport that can date itself back further than boxing and wrestling can. So the integrity of the entire sport that we have been told is a science, is a sweet science. That's either real or it's not. I happen to think it is real, but I can't prove it. They got to go out and fight. Brendan Schaub, tremendous voice, tremendous mind, tremendous opinion in this space, has come out and said he will make a $100,000 bet with the first person that wants to say yes, that Conor McGregor wins rounds in this fight. I don't understand how that's true, and I don't understand what data that would be based on. But if Conor can win rounds, then Conor can win the whole fight. All you have to do, if you win a round, if you win round number 1, all you have to do is go out and do that 6 more times, and you win the fight. You can win round number 3. You still got to do it 6 more times, and you get 12 opportunities to do it. You're going to win the fight. That's very interesting to me. I don't know what it is that Brendan sees. I hear people say that Conor is the bigger fighter. Okay, show me a time in history that mattered. You could do it. You could find one, but I could find a lot more where the smaller guy had the advantage. People will say that Conor's going to land that big, powerful shot, and it only takes one. Just find me a time in history where that's true. You could do it, but in the world of boxing, you got to go back 10 years since you saw an upset because a guy got knocked out because some lucky shot landed. If you want to find 2 examples, you got to go back about 15 years. It's just not something you see very much. In MMA, we do see it. But in MMA, we see it more, not only because of the size of the gloves. It all gets credited to the size of the glove, but that isn't all the only reason. It's also largely because of the setups in MMA. If I can make a guy drop his hands and trick him, make him think I'm going to shoot, I can spring back up while his hands are down and hit him on the chin and put him down. If I can make him think I'm going to throw a punch to the body and switch it up to a kick to the head, I can put him down while his hands are defending the body blow. I have different ways to trick him. In boxing, they've only got 2. You got a right hand and a left hand. Of those 2 options, they can only attack 2 different spots, the body or the head. So tricking a guy and landing that one big punch just isn't very likely. It's just not as common. You also talk about Conor McGregor, and people say, oh, he can put him in the corner and he can start teeing off. I hear you on that argument, and it sounds really good when you say it. But that's not how Conor fights. Conor is a counter fighter. Conor is a defensive fighter. And he looks fantastic at it. Did you guys see him fight Eddie Alvarez? Just to bring up a recent fight. Conor waited. He baited Eddie in. Eddie threw his punches. Boom. Conor saw his opportunity and hit him. So Conor, as a counter fighter, is taking on the greatest counter fighter out there. To use the argument that he's going to go out and attack him and put him in a corner and bully him. That's just not how he fights. I don't know what that's being based around. And when you're trying to form an opinion, I'm open to all opinions because I've got mine too and I'm passionate about it. But guys, I'm wrong all the time. I always give you guys a passionate opinion and I really believe it. And I do my due diligence. I do my research. I study the fights and I come away with an analysis. But 2 + 2 does not equal 4 in the world of combat. There are variables, there are intangibles, there are unforeseens. I recognize all of those, and I think that's what makes this such an exciting fight. All I ask is that when somebody disagrees with me and they think that Conor is going to win this fight, I just ask that you provide me evidence as to why. Not because you saw some interview that you enjoyed and not because you saw him win an MMA. Give me some kind of evidence as to how a southpaw counter fighter that's got a little bit of size and a little bit of reach. Show me a fight in history where that worked out in his advantage. If you can do it, if you can point to a fight, go, actually something similar to this that happened. And here's the result. And here's the techniques that fighter used. That's really valuable evidence. I'd love to hear it. But for now, we're faced with the fact that we got a guy who's never lost to professional boxing taking on a guy who's never done professional boxing. We're faced with the fact that 2 counter fighters are fighting. We're faced with the fact that to make the argument that Conor hits harder than Floyd, boy, that's a ridiculous one right out of the gate. And some people believe Conor hits harder because the last few people Conor's hit have gone down and the last few people Floyd has hit have not. You're misinterpreting the data. Floyd